britânico da Energia e Mudanças Climáticas, Ed Miliband, está no Brasil há alguns dias, fazendo uma visita intensa. Já foi ao Xingu se encontrar com lideranças indígenas, com fazendeiros na Amazônia, com ambientalistas, com empresários em São Paulo, com governadores, políticos em Brasília. E ele recentemente anunciou um programa de transição para uma economia de baixo carbono na Inglaterra. E sobre esses dois assuntos eu vou conversar com ele no programa de hoje. Mr. Miliband, how was your perspective impacted by the visit to Amazon?
Can I say, first of all, nice to be with you and have the chance to talk to you. It was an amazing trip to the Amazon and to meet the Xingu people and to hear from them about the struggles of their daily lives and the challenges that they were facing. And also it brought home to me that on this issue of climate change, everybody is connected. So the people in my country, in the United Kingdom, have a direct interest in what happens to the Xingu people, because we know that deforestation is one of the biggest challenges we face in relation to climate change.
Did you see a lot of scenes of deforestation?
We did. When we flew over to the Xingu park, as we were arriving there, we saw big deforestation and a lot of the logging that was taking place and the roads that had been built. And there is no substitute for seeing this directly,
Yes.
as opposed to hearing about it theoretically. So it was an amazing experience for me, and I will take back a lot of important experiences. And one in particular, the tribal, a woman tribal chief said at the end, "We all have the same blood running through our veins," and that in a way speaks to the connectedness, the common interest we have in tackling climate change. And the Xingu people are already seeing the effects of climate change. They say
Yes.
the river is shallower, and there are lots of issues they face.
And the Amazon is a sensitive issue for Brazilians, as you know. How can the international community support forest preservation at the same time respecting Brazilian sovereignty?
I think we can do that, but the way we do that is to be guided by what Brazil is saying and the perspective that they bring to these questions. The way I look at this, Brazil has already got a very ambitious program for reducing deforestation, for keeping the forests more sustainable. But
Do you think so? It's ambitious?
well, I think it's an ambitious set of targets. So they have said, Brazil has said that by
But not comparable targets. Brazil is not achieving our own goals.
Well, obviously I hear different things from different people, but as I understand it, the Brazilian aim is to say we will end net deforestation by 2017, so we will maintain the forests by 2017.
But do you think it's good enough to have 12,000 kilometers a year destroyed in Amazon? It's good enough?
No, I think you should go for as little as possible, and that's why the international community has a very important role, because Brazil can do a certain amount itself, but I think we have a responsibility, we
Yeah.
developed countries have a responsibility,
Yes,
because we have caused a lot of the problems of climate change to
Yes.
help support people. But I suppose the complexity of this, which comes home to me when I visited the area, is that we have to counter this issue of deforestation, but it's not just about trees, it's about people as well. And we have to find a way of supporting the people who live there with a living. And I was talking to the person who runs the Amazon Fund yesterday about what are the ways in which we can give people rewards and give people incentives to move from unsustainable practices to sustainable practices which can keep the forests alive, but also keep the people alive as well.
What the farmers told you?
The farmers are interesting, because the farmers, I think, were engaged in a lot of deforestation a few years ago, and indeed had a very difficult relationship with Greenpeace, who I travelled with to the farm.
I can imagine.
As you can imagine. But what's interesting is that they were now interested in tackling deforestation, because I think the law has changed, and the law is important for persuading them to tackle the problem. But I think what is also true is that they see the interest that they have in the forests, in the reforestation, because of the water supply, because they realize that if they don't have the forests and the vegetation, they will be deprived of water supply.
Yes.
So it is much harder to get the forest up again, to build the forest up again than to destroy it. That is, it is painstaking to rebuild the forest, as I saw for myself. But I felt that the farmers were more open, perhaps than I had expected, to the arguments that were made that deforestation was a big problem.
The UK announced recently their low carbon transition plan. This program considers coal as a low carbon source of energy. Do you really believe such a thing as a clean coal exists?
Well,
do you really believe?
Let me to answer your question in two parts. I don't think coal is a low carbon energy supply at the moment.
At the moment.
No, at the moment.
But you believe in technically, this is technically controversial, to say the least, the possibility to achieve this thing.
Carbon capture and storage. So there is a new technology called carbon capture and storage, which means that we can capture 90% of the emissions from coal. Our scientists say, and lots of eminent scientists say, that this is a potential way forward for the world. It has been demonstrated on a small scale, but it can be also demonstrated now, and we're going to try and do this in the UK, on a bigger scale. I think, let me put it this way, there is no solution to the problem of climate change without a solution to the problem of coal. When you think about China, for example, I was in China a few months ago, one province in China is building 40 gigawatts of new coal in the next 10 years, and the people there were telling me how they are building new coal-fired power stations, because coal is cheap, it's flexible, and there is a lot of it. So we have to find a solution to the problem of coal. And part of the challenge of
what about the other source of energy?
Yeah, I agree.
Renewable.
Renewable energy. In Britain, we are pushing forward on renewable energy. So wind power, wave power, solar power also. So we think that those are very important technologies. We also think nuclear is important, which is maybe controversial too. But even with a big drive on renewable energy, and even with nuclear power, I don't think we will eliminate coal from the energy mix. Also gas is also, it isn't as polluting as coal, but it is also a problem.
Natural gas?
Natural gas is also polluting. So, but carbon capture and storage is a potential solution.
The worst problem is coal, isn't it?
It is the worst problem, but, okay, let me put it this way. In Britain, we have a commitment to reduce our carbon emissions by 80% by 2050. That means we need to tackle the problem of coal, you're right, we need to make it clean and have carbon capture and storage, in my view. But we also need to tackle the problem of gas, because natural gas is still making emissions which are too great for a country that says we need to cut our emissions by 80%. And that's why carbon capture and storage also potentially offers a way forward. So our economies and our energy systems are engaged in very big changes. We need to use our scientists to make these changes possible. And I think we need to use all the fuels that we have at our disposal, and that includes trying to clean up coal as well.
Okay, but do you think the plan to achieve 40% of low carbon source of energy by 2020 is aggressive enough, given England's historical responsibility to the greenhouse gas emissions?